What's up, fellow and future millionaires? Welcome to Module 1 of the Build My Money Machine program. Anyone can and should start a business and create wealth. At first, we almost didn't include this as its own separate module for the program because even though it's one of the main mantras we're always talking about here at Millionaire University, we weren't sure if on its own it would have enough substance. But as we got thinking about all the things that successful people do and people who maybe struggle a little more financially, we realized there was a lot to unpack here. And these two things are directly related to how successful you'll be in your business and wealth creation now and throughout your life. So we decided to pull it out or put it in as its own separate module so we can make sure that we really hit these concepts. So lesson 1 is going to be all about anyone can start their own business and create wealth. Having that belief is huge. And then lesson 2, we'll get into the why it's important, why you should. And lesson 3 is called A New Way to Learn. And that's essentially the mission here at Millionaire University. So we're going to discuss some of the old ways of learning or some of the ways that currently are the ways of learning and where those are off, and talk a little more about the way you should look at learning and education and taking action. So these 3 lessons are going to pack a punch. Like I said initially, we weren't going to include them, but there really is so much here as we really broke it down that we wanted to include this as its own module. So sit back, don't relax too much, be ready to take notes, and let's get ready to dive into the Build My Money Machine program. Blast off starts now. 3, 2, 1, let's go. On April 12th, 1961, Yuri Gagarin became the first man ever to go to space as he successfully completed a 108-minute flight orbiting the Earth. It was the midst of the Cold War, and with other achievements in recent years, such as launching of Sputnik 1 and 2 and Lunar 2, the first spacecraft to successfully land on the surface of the moon just 2 years prior, it was clear that the U.S. was losing the race to space. That same year, John F. Kennedy was sworn in as President of the United States, and on May 25th, 1961, he announced the goal of landing a man on the moon. Just 8 short years later, on July 20th, 1969, the Apollo 11 landed, and 2 American astronauts walked on the moon for the first time, taking one giant leap for mankind. Some people think that success as an entrepreneur has to do with how smart or lucky someone is. I have often heard it said that you're either born with it or you're not. I mean, think about our society, the Midas touch. Everything you touch turns to gold. It's even a song. Last year, I went to Michigan with my boys to attend a trampoline event that my oldest son was participating in. One night for dinner, we went to a Korean barbecue place. As we were waiting for and then cooking our food, I couldn't help but overhear a conversation that was happening right behind us. Basically, it was a girl in her early 20s talking to her mom about all the dreams she has and all the things that she would love to do someday if she ever has the money. It was never a matter of when or how she's going to make the money or that she can do this. It was more just this wishful thinking, a dream. And the things that she wanted to do were all good things. I just wanted to reach back and be like, no, it's not can you, it's how are you going to make it happen? You can totally do it. There were things that she wanted to do, but she didn't have the conviction. It was more, if I get lucky, if this happens to happen to me, if I win the lottery or happen to inherit a bunch of money, this is what I would do. To me, saying someone who creates a successful business is lucky is analogous to saying that if there were 2 people that had the same access to the same resources, the same knowledge of how to build a house, one person gets up, works really hard on building that house, while the other one's just hanging out or doing whatever it is they're doing, then later goes up to them and be like, oh, you're so lucky. Only if I could have a house. It really isn't that much different. Okay, it just hit me that there's probably someone out there that's saying, yeah, but Justin, cue the story of the Yeah Butters. The first business event Tara and I went to, we were excited and overwhelmed, to say the least. 6 months later, we went to that same event, but this time we were on a panel. We were up speaking. Afterwards, a group of people gathered around Tara and I and continued to ask us questions. One person said, well, this won't work for me in my situation because there's too much competition. And then someone else came up and said, this won't work for me because there's not enough people doing the same thing in my area, so I don't have people that I can network with. Then someone else said, oh, this won't work for me because I live in a big city. And someone else said, this won't work for me because I live out in the country. Then someone else said, well, it won't work for me because I don't have enough money. And someone else said, I heard you shouldn't do this if you have a lot of money, and I have too much money and I might not spend it wisely. Then right as I thought I was losing my mind and I didn't think it could get any worse, someone came up to me and said, well, I live in California, and only if I lived in New York is where this would work the best. And this wasn't right back to back, but someone came up to me from New York. I kid you not. I thought I was in the Twilight Zone. And they said, well, I'm from New York, and only if I was in California, then this would work for me. It was one of the most bizarre, crazy, out of whack experiences of my life. The thing is, with every single one of these people, after they would go on with their excuses of why they couldn't do this, and Tara and I were standing there trying to tell them, oh, yes, you can because of this. I mean, here you had two people that 6 months ago knew nothing about this thing, and we had had a pretty good deal of success, and we were telling them how they could do it and why they could do it. But no matter what, time and time again, after we would tell them why they could do it and how they could do it, the very next words out of their mouth were, yeah, but, and then all I heard after that was blah, 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 blah. 2 days later, after returning home, I was talking to a colleague about what had happened, this crazy thing that happened with all these people and all their excuses as to why they couldn't be successful because of their circumstance. And he very quickly said to me, he said, oh, the yeah butters. No matter what you say, the next word out of their mouth is always yeah, but. And hence, the yeah butters were born. Don't be a yeah butter. There are a million ways to make $1 million. There are a million things you can do, and there are a million ways that you can do it. And when you multiply the combination of different things you can do and how you can do it, it's infinite. The truth is, and the really cool thing about business is you are individual. You're not like anyone else. You don't have to be like anyone else. You shouldn't be like anyone else. Find out what works for you in your situation. So many people focus on what they can't do and why they can't do it. Who cares about that stuff? There are two kinds of people in this world. Those who focus on how they can do something, how they can be successful, how they can make it work, and those who make excuses and focus on how it can't work. Which one do you want to be? To me, not being successful in business was never an option. Just like President Kennedy in the US going to the moon, my desire and conviction was so strong, I would not be denied. And that's the kind of belief and conviction that you need to be successful in business, to build your own money-making machine. A man once asked a room full of 100 people if they believed they could make $1 million over the next 12 months. Not one of them believed they could do it. Then he said, okay, I want you to imagine that you have 12 months to make $1 million, or everyone that you care about, everyone that you love will die. Could you do it? And every single one of them instantly, with conviction, said absolutely, 100%. Of course, I would and could totally do that in that circumstance. The amount of success you have in business or anything else in life really comes down to the following equation: propulsion minus drag. What are the things holding you back or slowing you down? Is it false beliefs from the past? Maybe you didn't have some success in the past and you've wrapped that up into your current identity. Maybe it's just a lack of knowledge and skills and belief of what is possible. Maybe it's a lack of taking action. Maybe you've listened to other voices telling you that you can't do it. Prior to making this goal and commitment of going to the moon, the most that an American had spent in space was about 15 minutes on a failed attempt to orbit around the Earth. The technology to go to, let alone land on the moon and return back safely, did not exist. Didn't exist for the spaceship, didn't exist to keep the astronauts alive. To say this was a big, hairy, audacious goal would be a huge understatement. And prior to the Soviet Union making progress to space and the ramifications of what President Kennedy and the US believed that could lead to, the pull just wasn't there. There wasn't enough conviction, enough desire, enough forward momentum. It seemed impossible. But once that conviction, once that desire, once that reason grew, the impossible became the inevitable. As I think through my life in the past 20 years and all the ups and downs that we've had in every business that we've started, it's never been easy. I sometimes think, what is it that kept me going? Why did I stick through those hard times? And the truth is, I had never even considered any other alternative. Unlike going to the moon or doing something that has never been done before, millions of people have started and grown successful businesses. And just like building a house, you can look at all the blueprints, floor plans, designs that you want and make it your very own. I was going to say something to the effect of success leaves clues. But in our day and age, they'll literally hand you the keys to the kingdom. They'll tell you exactly what to do, how to run your business, how to market, how to sell. It's all there. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Swipe and deploy, take bits and pieces, make it your own, here a little, there a little. Just like going to the moon, creating and putting your own business up into orbit, your own money-making machine is one of the most awesome, exciting, fulfilling adventures you'll ever embark on. It's not going to be easy. There are going to be days that you want to quit, but if you have that conviction and keep moving forward, you will eventually reach your destination. We'll see you in lesson 2.